You've probably watched a pirate movie where a cannon fires. There's a flash, a huge cloud of smoke, a deafening boom. Then an iron cannonball smashes through the side of another ship like it's made of paper. I always looked at the cannon. Turns out, I was looking at the wrong thing.
NANI? The cannon isn't the interesting part. It's just a hollow tube made of iron. Seriously, leave it sitting on a beach with no gunpowder and it's about as dangerous as a drain pipe. The real story is hiding inside it. Just before someone lights the fuse, there's a small pile of black powder sitting behind the cannonball. That's where all the power comes from. Not the iron, not the cannon, that little pile of powder.
And the more I looked into it, the stranger it became, because that powder wasn't some rare chemical only kings could afford. It wasn't made from crushed gemstones or secret pirate ingredients. It was made from three things that on their own don't look very impressive. One is basically burned wood. Another is a yellow mineral you can dig out of the ground. And the third, honestly, the third one surprised me the most. We'll get to that. But first, think about what this powder actually had to do. It wasn't lighting a candle. It wasn't starting a campfire. It had to throw an iron ball weighing several kilos fast enough to punch straight through thick oak planks. That's an absurd amount of force. If you stop and think about it for a second, it's kind of ridiculous. 3 ordinary ingredients, 1 extraordinary result.
So naturally, I assume pirates had figured out how to make it. I mean, who else would? They're surrounded by cannons, they're constantly firing muskets, they burn through barrels of the stuff. Surely somebody below deck is mixing black powder between battles, except that's not what happened at all.
In fact, by the time pirates became famous, gunpowder had already been around for centuries. Pirates didn't invent it. They inherited it. And that's where this story gets interesting. Because if you follow gunpowder backwards, away from pirate ships, away from Europe, away from cannons, you eventually end up somewhere you probably weren't expecting. China, more than 1,000 years ago.
And here's the part that almost sounds made up. The people who started this story weren't soldiers. They weren't engineers. They weren't trying to build better weapons. They were trying to live forever. Imagine spending years experimenting with strange powders and minerals because you genuinely believe one of them might unlock eternal life. That's what Chinese alchemists were doing during the Tang Dynasty. They mixed things together. They heated them. They wrote down what happened. Most experiments went nowhere. Some probably smelled awful. Some probably exploded. Little by little, they started noticing something strange. Certain mixtures didn't just burn, they flared up fast, much faster than anyone expected. Now, I want to be careful here because history is rarely as neat as people make it sound. You've probably heard someone say they accidentally invented gunpowder while searching for the elixir of immortality. That's the short version. The real story is messier. It didn't happen in one afternoon. Nobody mixed 3 ingredients together, watched a fireball, and announced they'd changed history. It took generations. Different people, different experiments, different recipes. Slowly, they learned which combinations worked better than others.
At first, nobody was firing cannonballs across oceans. Early gunpowder was used for things like fireworks, fire arrows, smoke bombs, devices that looked more like terrifying fireworks than pirate cannons. And honestly, that makes sense. Nobody invents a battleship before inventing a firework. Big inventions almost never appear fully formed. They evolve, one small improvement at a time. Then someone notices something nobody noticed before. Then somebody else improves that, and before anyone realizes what's happening, the world has changed. That's exactly what happened with gunpowder.
It spread, not because one person was carrying a secret recipe across the world. Ideas don't travel like that. People do. Merchants, travelers, armies, empires. Everywhere gunpowder went, someone experimented with it. Someone improved it. Someone made it a little more reliable, a little more powerful, a little more useful. Until one day, someone looked at this strange black powder and thought, what if we put it inside a metal tube? That simple question changed warfare forever. Not overnight. There wasn't a moment when swords suddenly disappeared and cannons took over. History doesn't work like that. But from that point on, the battlefield would never be quite the same.
And here's what I find fascinating. For all the attention cannons get, they're really just the delivery system. Take away the gunpowder, and a cannon is just an incredibly heavy piece of metal. Take away the cannon, and the powder is still one of the most remarkable inventions in human history. So what was actually inside it? Because the answer isn't what I expected. Not even close. The first ingredient looked almost too ordinary to matter. Just charcoal.
That's it. No glowing crystals, no magical pirate ingredient, just burned wood. Honestly, when I first read that, I thought I'd missed something. How could burned wood be responsible for one of the biggest inventions in history?
It turns out charcoal isn't just wood with burn marks on it. It's what's left after most of the stuff that normally slows a fire down is gone. Think about trying to light a log in your backyard. It takes time. The outside burns first. The inside takes forever to catch.
Now, think about charcoal. It catches much faster, burns hotter, and it keeps going. That's exactly why people wanted it. Not for cannons at first, for heat, for metalworking, for cooking. Charcoal had been useful for centuries before anyone even thought about mixing it into gunpowder.
But here's the part that surprised me. Not all charcoal was good charcoal. You'd think burned wood is burned wood. Apparently not. Powder makers learned, mostly by trial and error, that the kind of tree mattered. The way it was burned mattered. Even the final texture mattered. Nobody was writing chemistry textbooks. They were just paying attention. This batch worked. That one didn't. Generation after generation, those little observations slowly added up.
And remember, charcoal was only one piece of the puzzle. By itself, it burns. That's all. It doesn't launch cannonballs. It doesn't level castle walls. It doesn't make pirate ships terrifying. Something else had to be happening. That's where sulfur comes in. You've probably seen sulfur before without realizing it. If you've ever looked at pictures of volcanic landscapes and noticed those bright yellow rocks, that's sulfur. It almost looks harmless. Actually, it looks kind of pretty, which is funny because it ended up becoming part of something incredibly destructive.
Sulfur wasn't the main source of power. People sometimes assume that because it catches fire so easily. It wasn't. Its job was more like helping everything else get started. Think about building a campfire. You don't throw huge logs into a fire pit and expect magic. You start with the easy stuff, the tiny pieces. Once they're burning, everything else follows. Sulfur plays a similar role. It helps the reaction get going.
So now we've got burned wood, we've got sulfur, and honestly, nothing here explains a pirate cannon. If anything, it's becoming even more confusing because none of these things explode. Not on their own, not even close. Which brings us to the third ingredient, and this is where the whole story takes a weird turn.
Because the most important ingredient didn't come from a volcano. It didn't come from a forest. It sometimes came from dirt. Not just any dirt, the kind of dirt most people would avoid. Old stable floors, rotting earth, places where animals had lived for years. The first time I read that, I actually stopped. I thought, no way. Surely that's one of those fake history facts that gets repeated online until everyone believes it. So I kept digging, and the truth turned out to be even stranger.
People weren't scraping manure into cannons. That's the myth. What they were really after was something much harder to see. Tiny natural processes happening underground. Bacteria were quietly breaking things down. Over time, certain soils became rich in compounds that could eventually be refined into saltpeter. That's what people wanted. Not the dirt itself, not the manure, the crystals hidden inside the process.
And here's what really blew my mind. Saltpeter became so valuable that governments cared about it almost as much as gold. Think about that for a second. Kings weren't fighting over burned wood. They weren't fighting over sulfur. But saltpeter? That was different. Without it, you couldn't make effective gunpowder. Without gunpowder, your cannons stayed silent. Your muskets became clubs. Your entire army suddenly looked a lot less intimidating, which means something incredibly ordinary quietly became one of the most strategic materials on Earth.
And that's where I started looking at pirate ships differently. Because if this one ingredient was that valuable, how did pirates keep getting so much of it? Did they have people making gunpowder somewhere below deck? Did they carry the raw ingredients around? Or were they getting it from somewhere else entirely? Because the answer to that completely changed the way I picture pirates.
The more I read about pirate ships, the less I believed they were making gunpowder themselves. Think about it. You're living on a wooden ship that's constantly moving. Everything is damp, everything is cramped. You're trying to survive storms, avoid naval patrols, repair sails, find food, and somehow you're supposed to run a gunpowder factory? It just doesn't make sense. And it usually wasn't true.
Pirates depended on gunpowder, but they usually got it the same way they got almost everything else. They bought it, captured it, or stole it. In other words, long before a pirate ever fired a cannon, someone else had already done the hard part. That's something pirate movies almost never show.
Every barrel of gunpowder had a history. Someone had mined the sulfur. Someone had spent months producing saltpeter. Someone had burned the charcoal. Someone had refined everything into usable powder. Someone had packed it into barrels. Someone had loaded it onto a merchant ship. And then, hopefully for the pirates, someone failed to protect it.
That's the strange thing about piracy. We imagine pirates creating chaos, but they actually depended on an enormous amount of order. Trade routes, merchants, ports, warehouses, shipbuilders, blacksmiths. Without all of those people doing their jobs, there wouldn't have been much for pirates to steal in the first place. And gunpowder might have been one of the most valuable things on board. Gold is exciting. Silver is exciting. But if you're about to fight another ship, a barrel of gunpowder might be worth even more. Because treasure doesn't help much if your cannons can't fire.
That brings us to another question I'd never really thought about. Where do you keep something this dangerous? Seriously, imagine someone hands you a barrel full of black powder. Now they tell you, good luck, you're going to live next to this for the next 3 months, on a wooden ship, covered in tar, lit by lanterns, while firing cannons every few days. That sounds insane, but that's exactly what sailors did. Every armed ship had a place reserved for its gunpowder, the magazine. It wasn't just another storage room. It was probably the one room you wanted everyone to treat with the most respect, because one careless mistake, one spark, could destroy the entire ship. It's strange, isn't it? The same powder that protected the crew was also one of the biggest dangers on board.
But here's the part that makes life at sea even more ridiculous. Fire wasn't the only thing they worried about. Water was just as bad. It sounds backwards. Water stops fire. Shouldn't that be a good thing? Not if you're carrying gunpowder. If moisture got into the barrels, the powder became useless. Now imagine trying to keep something perfectly dry while living in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Salt spray, rain, humidity, leaking decks, wet ropes, everything around you wanted to get damp.
Which means pirate crews were constantly fighting two enemies that couldn't have been more different. Too much fire, you explode. Too much water, your cannons become decorations. It's such a weird balancing act. And honestly, I think that's one of the reasons pirate life feels so different once you stop looking at the movies. Hollywood loves showing the explosion. It almost never shows everything that had to happen before the explosion. The careful storage, the constant inspections, the crew making sure the powder stayed dry, the pressure of knowing that every battle depended on something that hated both sparks and seawater.
Then the battle finally begins. Another ship appears on the horizon. The distance closes. Cannons are rolled into position. Someone carries fresh powder from the magazine. Another sailor rams it into the barrel. The cannonball follows. The fuse is lit, and then, boom! For a split second, the cannon disappears inside a cloud of thick white-gray smoke. The whole ship shakes. Your ears are ringing. You probably can't even see the other ship anymore. Just smoke, splinters, people shouting through the noise. It's chaotic.
But underneath all that chaos, everything depends on 3 incredibly ordinary materials: burned wood, yellow sulfur, and crystals that began their journey in ordinary soil long before anyone loaded a cannon. That's the part I can't stop thinking about. When you watch a pirate movie, the cannon feels like the invention. It isn't. The cannon just points the energy. Gunpowder creates it.
And somehow, one discovery that began in China more than 1,000 years ago ended up powering the ships that became the symbol of the Golden Age of Piracy. I love history when it does that. You start by asking one simple question: how did pirate cannons work? A few hours later, you're reading about Chinese alchemists, bacteria living in soil, merchants hauling strange minerals across continents, and governments desperately trying to secure enough saltpeter to keep their armies alive. You realize the cannon was never really the story. The story was everything that had to happen before someone ever lit the fuse. And once you see it that way, you'll never watch a pirate battle quite the same way again.